Welcome to another in the series, Sip and Chat, a place where we talk about the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. It's our pleasure this afternoon to be coming into your homes and to be talking about the goodness. Welcome to another in the series, Sip and Chat. It is a series where we seek to enlighten and give people this hope that we know is very, very important in this time and the season. And I'm your host, Leleith Tomlinson. It's a pleasure, as usual, to join you. And I know that at the end of each program, we always feel very empowered based on the feedback that we get from our viewers. Now, this last week, we started on a very important topic, that of the whole matter of parenting. And we have been having a number of guests, both parents as well as children, as well as persons representing institutions to talk about this whole matter of learning. So as we bring this whole matter of Child's Month to a close, I want to say that it is important for us to take the lessons learned and the emphasis that were placed on a number of issues, not just to the end of the month, but to take them throughout the year and throughout the other year. Because what we're going to find is that it is those stones, those pillars, as discussed here on this program, that is truly going to make a difference in the lives of our young people. Very fondly, we often say that the children are our future, but I've come to appreciate that they're more than just the future. So we kind of think of it as coming, but the future is actually right here and now. And so what we do here and now is going to be very, very important as we look forward to a Jamaica where we can feel even more comfortable to live, grow, and be blessed. Okay. So I decided that this afternoon I wanted to delve a little deeper in some powerful reflections that I think are also very important. And one of that is the matter of hope. This week, for example, we were blessed with some news that was not the usual news of children being children were probably missing, yes, but not criminal activity and so on. But more so, one of the highlights of this week was a feature on two children, two young adults rather. One of them is Ramona Little, and this one was really truly inspiring. It is about a young girl who grew up in a SOS village in Jamaica. And she made her way to Concordia College, and she just graduated Magna Cum Laude at the head of her class, and she was the first recipient of the Davis Award. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is major accomplishment. She said she was abandoned from about 2 months, I think it was. We're going to try to see if we can get some excerpts of the clips to show you. But it's just so powerful having listened to her speech. Part of the speech she actually broke down, in the speech, just reflecting on her journey to being the valedictorian at the graduation. And then we moved on to this young adult. His name is Christopher Yu in the UK, who is one of, when he was flying out on the galactic Virgin Atlantic ship going up, which is now going to be able to take vacations in space, and he's one of the astronauts. And he actually wore two flags on his arm, as they usually do. But usually most times he does one. But he wore his Jamaican flag and he wore his US flag. And he also is from humble parentage over there in Hanover. And then after which his mother migrated to the UK. Now, I was so touched by those two stories, because here are two families who, under extenuating circumstances, made a commitment that they were going to provide hope for their children. And I want us to understand that hope, mental strength, is so important in rearing healthy children. So it's not always about giving them what they need, but in the midst of not being able to do that, how is it that we still inspire hope in our children? That's the lesson that I want to impart today on this program. Hope, life, vision, even in the midst of darkness and obscurity and void and what seems like negative. How do we inspire optimism in our children? How do we speak to them? There is this quote that says, I just want to read it for you. It says, the sign of great parenting is not the child's behavior,
The sign of good parenting is not the display of the child's behavior, but the sign of good parenting is the parent behavior. That is so powerful because oftentimes we are often focused on the end product, the child's behavior, and not understanding that the modeling of the behavior by the parent is ultimately going to be impactful in the adult that we see in the future. So this ties in very neatly to the fact that as parents, even when we're going through adverse circumstances, we have to learn how to still say to our children, there is hope. You can make it. As a family, as a unit, we're going to make it. Sometimes we have families where the father left or the mother left. And so the mother or the caregiver or the parent who is left behind to rear that child can become so bitter that every day that child, through no fault of his or her own, will have to live with almost like a guilt, like if I wasn't born, if it wasn't me, mommy wouldn't have to go through this. She wouldn't have. But when you inspire hope, say, listen, dad might not be here, mom might not be here, but we are unstoppable and we're gonna make it. You inspire hope in them. You begin to teach them lessons of resilience that we're gonna bounce back from what looked like our setback. We're gonna make a comeback. We might not look like we're winning right now because we're building pillars of success. And sometimes we're going to fall, but we're going to make it after all. And I believe in the stories and in the history, when we look on the accomplishments of Christopher and Ramona, these are lessons that we can learn, and we must get these tapes, show them to our kids, talk to our kids about them, that listen, the same circumstances that these kids were faced with are probably similar to what you're currently undergoing, but we can do it. And so we have to learn and make a commitment as parents how to build and rear children of hope and resilience. I want to say this, that parents can only give good advice or put children on the right path, but the final forming of a person's character also lies in their own hands. So while you are the major caregiver and while they're going through that transitional phase, make sure that you're modeling, you're saying the right kinds of things. Last week, we looked at the 4 different types of parents. We looked at the parent who says, listen, you can just do what you want to do. You can just be you. Where the parenting, where we saw where it was more like a permissive style where the child was in charge. And we know that that ought not to be the case, right? Children must understand structures. They must understand leadership because they have to have someone in the times of difficulties that they look to for hope. They have to have that person who represents maturity and provides direction. So the permissive type of parenting we emphasize is not really where we want to go. Overindulgence of the children. And sometimes one of the reasons why there is this overindulgence is because sometimes we're not physically there to be able to be in the here and now with them. But what we need to make clear to our kids is that, listen, sometimes mommy makes these sacrifices, but these sacrifices are towards an ultimate goal. What do you think about those goals? What do you think about those sacrifices? Do you understand why mommy or daddy is doing it, right? And I just want to pause as well to also acknowledge that when we talk about parenting, we must also acknowledge that there are some great moms, but there are some excellent fathers as well. We have had fathers who single-handedly have also raised excellent daughters and excellent sons. And so we really, on this program, Sip and Chat, want to send a big shout out to the dads who remain steadfast in the midst of all that is happening around them. They remain unshakable. And those shakeable at times, they're able to also come back in position. We want to also speak to the parents who are very neglectful, and sometimes neglect just comes out of frustration. You still have to find hope, and that is why I really embrace this whole concept of the community and having children go to places of worship, interacting with their Sunday school teacher, because I got a lot of my source of strength and hope from a Sunday school teacher, and she wasn't an adult. She was just very mature for her age at the time. And when I was younger, I thought she was a big lady. But I understood as I became older and based on the age gap, that she was just a very mature person. So the place of refuge is no longer for us to just leave them at home and leave them to the tablets or leave them to their phones or the television. But let us get back to the social institutions that we had in our community that were quite helpful. We had the scouts, we had the community brigades, we had those kinds of things. And we also have our churches, and let them be accountable as well as they interact with these institutions, because it helps them to bring out their personality and to form healthy characters. I want to also talk to this authoritarian parent. We know we want to be strict because we said to ourselves that, listen, what happened to my child, what happened to me in my childhood will never happen to my child. But remember, sometimes children in the absence of understanding sometimes will just naturally rebel, because they can understand why you're just seeing me that I'm going to become one of those victims. I'm going to be a dropout, and because of what happened to you, is like you're being so careful if you and so on in trying to not let that happen to your child. But there's a way. There's a method, and that is why we encourage parenting seminars, and we say, go out there. You know, you don't have to be a scholar to find yourself in these places, because a lot of the content as well is on these social spaces. So we have to be careful. And because we want to be so authoritarian in our punishment, sometimes we say, listen, what I'm going to do, I'm going to teach you a lesson. And sometimes those lessons that we teach them result in missing limbs. That's how serious it is for some parents. They are so frustrated. They want the best for their children. And they say, listen, I'm going to give you something to cry for. I'm going to teach you a lesson. We see bruised children, battered children. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that children who grow in a hostile environment, even in the name of correction, often becomes very hostile as well, because that's what they are accustomed to and that's what they're used to. And so when we look at the parenting styles, we want to have a mix between what we refer to as authoritative, not authoritarian, but authoritative, where we listen to the children and we'll explain to them. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave with you on this evening on Sip and Chat some of the pointers that we know are very important in child rearing. So, because these tips are very important, because it is said by Frederick Douglass that it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Can I say that one more time? Frederick Douglass. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. He's an American African abolitionist, right? And he knew of the importance of a strong foundation. Children thrive when they are challenged, right? Given responsibility and encouraged to assume leadership roles. And we're going to talk about that as some of the things that we should do as parents to build healthy young men and young women. And I know that we're going to benefit from some of these. So what are some of the tips that I want to leave with you this afternoon as we go through this program? First tip, stop negativity in the moment. Whether the negativity is coming from you or the negative expressions are coming from your child. Mommy, I'm not going to make it. I am no good. All the children in the class are better than me. You need to find that spot where you say, listen, back up. I don't know what you're hearing in your class, and I know probably you're not doing as well right now, but I wanted you to know that you are a champion. That's what I want you to do. Stop the negativity. Ungrounded pessimism eats away at hope. It's like a parasite. You know, some people are so pessimistic. They speak the most negative things. And I say this to parents as well. Whenever anyone says anything at all negative about your child, you need to rebuke that. And you need to, when I say rebuke, you need to say, back up. I hear you. My child has misbehaved. My child has done something that is out of line, but I will not entertain your liturgy of negative comments about my child. Him not come out to nothing good. The what lisping them. No, you don't go there. I don't know what you speak over your child. Thank you for the feedback. And in a nice way, not in a frustrated way. But you're not going to allow those things to take root because words have power. All right. So one of the things that when you do, if you're a Christian and even if you're not a Christian and you pray, I practice this. Every negative utterance that has been said against my child, my nieces, my nephews, or any child related to me by blood, I nullify them in the name of Jesus. Because sometimes people say things about your kids that you're not aware of. So you need to say things in the atmosphere as well to intercept those negative comments. So we need to do that. Sometimes people oftentimes create negative nicknames. You know, in Jamaica we have those things, right? Nicknames or call names, and you give those children what list, big head, tough head. No, we don't do that. And don't you parents, you don't even practice it either. That's very important. We don't use those nicknames. We're going to call them blessings. We're going to call them promise. Those are the kinds of nicknames you want, because if those names, if word is wind, as we know, and word is powerful, then those words are going to give them wings that they can fly. So that's what we want to call them. Wisdom, promise, blessings. Those are the kind of things. We don't call our children devil and Satan. Can you think of the cognitive implication, the physical implication when you call your children those names? Lucifer? Come on. And those are some of the things that Jamaican parents and parents all over do. Give their children these names. Use hopeful mantras across your children. One of the things that I encourage kids to do is to form their own mission statement, life statement. Just write something positive. Put it in your room. It can be something that they have in their room that they change yearly, or it can be something that they always look at each morning as they alight from their rest, and they read it and they affirm it. That sets such a tone for the rest of the day when they wake up in the morning and they read all things are possible, or Philippians 4 verse 13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. And it doesn't have to be from the Bible. It can be just a powerful quote that says something to them, that let them know you have a right to be here. You are a child of the universe. So we need to do those things. And one of the things that we want to do is about, and don't forget to adopt children to adopt these things. And listen, sometimes they hear some negative inner voices, but we want to talk to them so much that their inner voice will be the voice that speaks positive to them. Now, one of the things I want to also say is that problems are a real part of life. And so are failures. I've had some failures interacting with in my own life as a child. And sometimes what we need to say to our kids is that you will encounter challenges. But how do we interact with them when they have challenges? I know sometimes their disappointment becomes our disappointment and we feel let down as well. So we want to give you some tool. So one of the things that they're explain to your child, the trick to getting unstuck is to spark your brain for solution. So when things happen, let them brainstorm. Then teach them how to do it, how to get out of this situation. So if you have your pen and your pencil, I know my producer will put this up as well. We want to use something to help them to brainstorm, and it's stand. So the first thing when something happens and they're trying to think, what do I do? They're going to slow down so they can think. Then they're going to tell what their problem is. Then they're going to say, okay, I wanted to do this, but this happened. Ask, what can I do? Impart in your children that it is okay to ask for help. It is okay to say, I'm not able to do this and I need assistance. Because sometimes we give them these kinds of messages that you need to be tough, you need to be strong, you need to know what to do. All right? So we need to know how to tell them that, listen, you're not going to always have all the right answers, but you can ask for help. And then name everything you could do to solve this problem. Let them list it out or talk it out to you. Let me tell you something. One of the interesting quotes, as I said, I talk about it sometimes, is that the best legacy that we can give to our children is being present with them and being actively present, listening to what they're saying and providing them with feedback. So let them name everything it is that they could do, or they on how they think those things will impact their situation. And then when they are presented it, empowerment, then you help them to decide what is the best choice. I know this is a powerful tool that I'm leaving with you today, helping children to stand when they are faced with decisions that they have to make. Is this my best option? What is another option that I could use? Another thing that we need to do is to share hopeful news. So sometimes when we see other kids who are succeeding as well, we need to share these kinds of stories with our kids. A lot of our kids' times are spent watching some of these violent shows. One of the most popular kids show is Fortnite, Minecraft, and some of those things. What you see a lot of shooting and the kid. I know there are other implications to the game like Mind Challenge and stuff like that. But we need to also engage them. And if I encourage my child, you encourage your child, encourage them to watch things that are build their minds and build their creativity and their ability to think. Help your children to ask, what if? Those what if questions, right? Sometimes possibilities look gloomy with dim hopes, but hopeful kids learn to assess accurately. When your child shares a doubt, pose what if. Those what if questions, again, it's building them, right? So you might ask, what happened if you tried or you didn't try? Because, sometimes they come home and they'll say, Mommy or Daddy, I don't think I can do this or never make it. I had a little young lady the other day. She was entering a pageant. There was a pageant at her school. And so in the back of her mind, this pageant was all about beauty. And she felt to herself, though she was very talented, she felt to herself that she wouldn't make it because she wasn't as probably one of the most beautiful girls in the competition. And we sat her down and we spoke to her and we said, listen, first of all, you are beautiful. You need to know that. And then secondly, you need to know that you have other talents and acumens and skills and ability that probably nobody else has. And the points are going to be incremental. So who knows if at the end of the day, based on your talent, based on your creativity and so on, that you'll come out way ahead of what you characterize to be beauty. And that's another discussion as well, what our children regard as beauty, because sometimes that's what we tell them. You're blacky, we have to be careful about those things that we express to our children. So always remember to ask the what if. Again, I like this because it's a very important empowerment tools. Share stories with them about persons who are caught in between the rock and a hard place, and they asked the what if questions and they made their move and they had success as well. That is crucial. I want to say this as well. We need to learn to celebrate small gains. Yeah, I know sometimes we can be greedy as parents, very greedy. So our children are doing 13 subjects and we said 13 ones. And believe me, when they get the 12 ones and the 1, 2, we're like, seriously? You couldn't get the 13 ones? And we carry on like that. Or they came in a race and they didn't win. They came second, or they came third, or even if they came last in the race. Boy, our comment should be, son or daughter, I'm so proud of you because you completed the race. And sometimes in life, those are lessons that they're going to want to be able to embrace as well. Because when they get into corporate and they have things to do, they might not always have the best speech, but they participated in whatever is going to happen. So they need to learn those kinds of skills as well. So celebrate small gains. The last time you got 9 words correct, today you got 10. That's a gain. When you say it that way, it makes a difference. And finally, don't do that. Sometimes we just get caught up in our own emotions and we don't say the right things. Another thing that we need to learn to do is how to boost assertiveness. I will confess that I used to tell my child that, listen, don't hit anybody, and that was just the thing. Don't hit anybody, really endorsed it. And then I remembered one day somebody said, why do you keep telling him that? Because ultimately he'll just sit down there and take licks from everybody. Mark you, I was bullied at school. But and then I recognize when the person explained, that is why, having these conversations is important. The person said, you mustn't always endorse that kind of rhetoric, because what you're just basically saying is that you are just going to be vulnerable to somebody, trying to bully you and take away your stuff and all of that. But what you need to tell him to do is how to be assertive. If somebody takes away your stuff, you need to say to that person, this is mine, and what you're doing is stealing. And I'm going to tell the teacher, or I'm going to tell my parent, but this has to stop. You're not going to continue taking away my stuff. So it is very important to help children to be assertive in a very positive way. Create good gratitude rituals. Be careful of the kinds of things that you promise, especially if you know that you can't deliver. In wrapping up today, I want to say to us that we must continue to embrace our children. They may not always be the stars in every activity that they do, but sometimes they are morphing into that star. Be there for them. Be their cheerleader. Remember, parenting is a skill that we develop over time. We learn from our mistakes and we perfect them with each blessed day that the Lord has given to us. But let us treasure that gift that the Lord has given to us, that gift of birthing. And whether it be physical or it be just spiritual, we must honor the fact that we have been entrusted with precious lives who will make a difference in the tomorrow where we plan to abide. So let us continue to empower our kids. Hope. Give them hope. Give them a firm foundation. Give them something to stand on. Today, whatever we do, remember, we are building people who are going to be world changers tomorrow. Until next time, we want to continue to sip and to chat. And I want to say this as well, as we sip and chat, that meal times are very important with your kids. It was Thomas Edison who said, it is so important to create enthusiasm with our children. Sometimes we are so stiff and rigid. And I'm telling you, even as adults, when I listen to adult conversations today, they will reflect that, wow, one of our best times as a child was those family moments that we had when daddy was not the authoritative daddy with the belt and mommy was not fit and so on. But those are the cuddle moments, those are the tickle moments when everybody was just being human and having a great time. And that's what God intended for the family to be, a place, a safe place of hope, joy, and comfort. Challenges will be there, but we will be confident that we have caregivers who have our best interests at heart. Thank you for joining us this afternoon on Sip and Chat. Great parenting.